Milagro Beanfield War was going to come out, and you know, the New York Times would call up and say, "What do you think of the movie?" And I would have to say, "You know, I haven't seen the fucking movie. I don't know what I think about it." You know, and then I would have to, you know, to cover my ass or try and be polite, I have to say, you know, it's really been a wonderful experience, and I'm sure it's going to be a great movie. And I was just sitting there paralyzed that it was just going to be a racist, you know, horrendous, you know, what's it called, patronizing piece of crap.
Which it turned out not to be.
Yeah.
It turned out great.
Yeah.
We loved it.
There you go.
Yeah.
We all love it because it's charming.
But you know what? Personally, I think Wizard of Loneliness was really
You know, Wizard of Loneliness was a nice
notch.
idea that ran out of money about 3/4 of the way through, and then the whole movie just went. But it had wonderful actors.
I really liked it.
It was sweet.
Anyway.
Oh, the typewriter.
Okay, so you had all these, you typed for years on a
Yeah,
disposable
so
typewriter.
Yeah, so finally I got pushed from the Olympia to use a computer as a word processor.
Mm-hmm.
And but I wrote everything by hand, usually the first time anyway. And so the typewriter, I would type up a draft, but then I would correct everything by hand, you know. And so gradually, when I learned how to use a computer as a word processor, it was kind of the same procedure, except that I could type things really quickly. But then I would print out a hard copy and just scribble and scribble and correct and correct and correct. And then I would type into the computer the same way I type onto the typewriter, get a hard copy and start scribbling corrections again, you know. The computer made that easier, you know, the word processor.
Cut and paste.
Yeah, cut and paste. And I would do that a lot with my typewritten manuscripts. You know, I would cut and paste. The computer made it a little easier to cut and paste. However, I think the computer takes away a certain amount of concentration because it's so easy to type in corrections and print out a fresh copy that I have a tendency not to go over each page 500 times before I retype it clean. I go over it maybe 20 times. Then it's sort of instant gratification. You can type it up clean again, you know. So it wastes a lot of paper, and it changes the kind of concentration that I use when I'm, you know, correcting.
You used to go to Dory's and write.
I used to go to Dory's Cafe for years.
By hand? Did you write by hand there?
Yeah.
You know,
just write
in a spiral notebook, or
spiral notebooks.
And
I'd get them at Smith's, and I'd always get their college notebooks, but they're wide lined, not the narrow line. They're wide lined. I like more space between my sentences. So.
What difference is there between typing and writing for you?
What do you mean?
Writing by hand? Yeah.
I don't know. I never was very good at creating on the typewriter or on the computer. It's harder to do. It's harder to create on the computer.
Even though that's actually left-right brain, both.
Maybe.
And writing is not.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I just always, the habit was to write out things in longhand. I used to print out in longhand entire novels when I was in my teens and early 20s. And they are printed so neatly, they almost look typed.
Do you still have those, or are they?
Yeah, they're at the University of New Mexico Center for Southwest Research. All the archives, you know, have gone down there, but they have copies of those novels, which are quite remarkable. You can't believe that a kid would print them out so carefully. I also wanted to be a cartoonist, so at a pretty early age, I learned how to print really clearly in the speaking balloons, you know, the balloons of dialogue balloons. You have to print really carefully. So I wrote entire books like they were the careful printing of dialogue balloons.
Do you need to get that?
I better see who it is.
So says the ungoogleable man. No Facebook page, no nothing. And yet he walks amongst us.